So yesterday was, for those of us who celebrate, it was Easter Sunday, and it also happened to be the exact 22nd year anniversary of Pope John Paul II, well now he's a saint, but at the time he was the Pope, his letter to artists. He wrote this in 1999, and I was thinking, we live in such a soundbite, clickbait, skim through, quickly read stuff type of generation, that I thought I would take the time to slowly read through this and actually take it all in, because usually, I know I've read this before in the past and I love it, but I think I really just skimmed through it in the past and certain quotes pop out at me, but I don't think I've ever really taken the time to truly slowly read through this document. So yesterday was Easter and I decided to take the time to read it, and so I thought I would share some of my thoughts. So in reading this, I think one of the overall initial thoughts that really stuck out to me was artists have such a role in paving the way forward to the future, more than we actually realize. It reminded me of such a responsibility we have as artists to play a part in that role of paving the way forward. And not only that, but those of us who recognize a gift within us of some type of creative capacity, it's our duty to develop that gift and share it and use it to the best of our ability. And it's not just a gift for ourselves, but it's a gift to serve humanity as a whole. In reading through this letter, a lot of things stuck out to me. Initially, I was reminded of this amazing opportunity I actually had in New York City to attend a screening of Inside the Actors Studio, or not a screening, a filming of an episode of Inside the Actors Studio with Lupita Nyong'o, and she was interviewed by Aduba, who was, if you watch Orange is the New Black, Crazy Eyes, Suzanne. And at the end of the interview, she was asked,
finish this sentence, okay? I'm an actor because I must.
I love that, because all of us, anyone who is an actor, a musician, a writer, an artist of any kind, I think that's the response, is you simply must. Like, if you're a genuine artist and you have that within you. So in this letter, John Paul II wrote, "Those who perceive in themselves this kind of divine spark, which is the artistic vocation, as poet, writer, sculptor, architect, musician, actor, and so on, feel at the same time the obligation not to waste this talent, but to develop it, in order to put it at the service of their neighbor and of humanity as a whole." And he goes on to write, "Society needs artists, just as it needs scientists, technicians, workers, professional people, witnesses of the faith, teachers, fathers, and mothers, who ensure the growth of the person and the development of the community." I thought that was so powerful, because we often don't hear that society needs artists. We usually in school, art is just an extra elective, and it's the first thing to be cut in the budgets, and it's kind of seen as just a fluff, superficial, extra thing in society. But society needs artists, and to hear that coming from a pope is amazing. It reminds me of this really good TED Talk that I watched by Ethan Hawke, and he talked about how
when art's not a luxury, it's actually sustenance. We need it.
And then I also love how JP2 goes on to write, "Within the vast cultural panorama of each nation, artists have their unique place." I love this as well, because often artists feel like they don't have a place in society, and it's so easy to feel like undervalued or unappreciated or undermined, or that there's certain other things in society that are more important and more funded and more paid attention to and uplifted, and certain career paths that are seen as more necessary or important than others. And also, this is so great, obedient to their inspiration in creating works both worthwhile and beautiful, they not only enrich the cultural heritage of each nation and of all humanity, but they also render an exceptional social service in favor of the common good. Wow, I feel like the average person might hear that and think, and might just kind of smirk and roll their eyes and be like, okay, that's kind of a stretch. Just think about that. Social service in favor of the common good. When you think about the common good, and especially in terms of religious perspectives, it's usually like, oh, serving the poor and feeding the hungry and helping, all the works of mercy. But to think that art is in service of humanity for the common good. I think that's beautiful. And it kind of reminds me of this past wound I have of, not really wound, but there was someone who I actually just thought about when I was reading this of, I think there was this guy that I used to talk to. We were just getting to know each other. We went on one date maybe and then never talked again after that. We were kind of getting to know each other, and he was like, oh, it's like, what do you do? What do you do? Why do you do what you do? And why? And I think I was talking to him about how, I think at the time I recently graduated from college and I had my BFA, and I was talking about creativity and what I want to do for the future, and how important creativity was to me and the arts, and how it's a way to really serve humanity. And I think he kind of not really rolled his eyes, but he was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a noble cause, like when people don't really take you seriously. But to hear a pope say this is really reaffirming and amazing. And JP2 goes on to write, the particular vocation of individual artists decides the arena in which they serve, and points as well to the tasks they must assume, the hard work they must endure, and the responsibility they must accept. So I love this. This is so serious, because when he's writing this letter, he's truly not messing around. It's like, this is serious. This is, you as an artist have a role in society, and the hard work it's going to take you, and the perseverance and the responsibility you have as an artist. I love how he doesn't take it lightly. It's a good time for us to self-reflect on our own motives and what those might be, because I love this. He says, artists who are conscious of all this know too that they must labor without allowing themselves to be driven by the search for empty glory or the craving for cheap popularity. Because think about that, how many people might think they want to be a musician or an artist or whatever it might be, and a lot of people might just want to do it for the fame and the glory and not actually the skill and the craft of it. So it's good to realize our intentions of what place is this desire coming from. He says, there is therefore an ethic, even a spirituality of artistic service, which contributes in its way to the life and renewal of a people. I think that's so amazing. Think about your art contributing to the renewal of a people. So as he goes on in this letter, he writes about the relationship between the church and people and artists, and throughout history how the Bible has provided such an endless stream of inspiration for artists and musicians and painters and poets and filmmakers. And I couldn't help but be reminded of a recent thought that I had when I was at a live poetry event. It was the birthday of, or what would be, Jack Kerouac's birthday, and there were poets there, but some of the content was very vulgar type of references and things that I think if an average church-going person would go to this, they might be like, uh-oh, this is inappropriate, this is bad. But to me, being at this event, hearing the poets, thinking, wow, these are people who maybe they aren't religious themselves, or maybe they used to be religious, or a lot of people grow up and they're like, yeah, if I had $1 for every time I heard, yeah, I was raised Catholic, but I went to Christian school, or my parents were Christian and I was raised in the church, but, the endless but ... whatever happened in their life to lead them away from the church, which so many times I can totally see valid reasons for that. But what I think a lot of people who might consider themselves atheist or agnostic, I so clearly see the heart of God in these people, in the way that they produce their art, the way they are poets and musicians and artists, whatever form that might be. I see God flowing through them, and they might not realize it or know it or believe it, but I see it in them, and it's such a beautiful thing for me to witness. I think that's why I love live music, I love live events, I love seeing artists in their element. There's seagulls right now. I just love seeing artists in their element because I see them tapping into that what lies beyond, the thing that is unseen with the human eye, but they encounter on such a deep level, and that they bring forth through their art. To me, it's just witnessing, it's glimpsing into the heart of God. So another thing about this letter is that it was written 22 years ago, and I love how there's a timeless element to it. He writes So at the end, there's an appeal to artists, written, spoken, theater, music, and the most recent technologies in the field of communication. It's so interesting to think how things have evolved since the year 1999. When he wrote this, the most recent technologies in the field of communication, that has changed so much since 1999 that we can apply this today and think, wow, what are our most recent forms of communication? That's going to evolve over time so much more. We can always refer back to this letter for inspiration. I love this. Humanity in every age, and even today, looks to works of art to shed light upon its path and its destiny. And I love how he ends the letter. Beauty is a key to the mystery and a call to transcendence. It is an invitation to savor life and to dream of the future. And another thing, I shared this on my Instagram yesterday, I've been doing these daily reels. I handwrite quotes and I post them with music in the background. And I shared this one. Artists of the world, may your many different paths all lead to that infinite ocean of beauty, where wonder becomes awe, exhilaration, unspeakable joy. May you be guided and inspired by the mystery of the risen Christ, whom the church in these days contemplates with joy. And I love that because Easter just passed and we're celebrating the risen Christ. And this was exactly 22 years ago on Easter, when Easter also fell on April 4th. And then, my hope for you, may your art help to affirm that true beauty, which as a glimmer of the Spirit of God will transfigure matter, opening the human soul to the sense of the eternal. With my heartfelt good wishes, from the Vatican, April 4th, 1999, Easter Sunday. So, okay, these birds are out of control right now. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. The letter to artists, you can, if you just Google Pope John Paul II letter to artists, it's going to come up, and I just printed off a PDF that I found online, and I was going through this, underlining things, really slowly taking it all in and savoring every word. Because like I said, I think we live in a society where everything is so clickbait, quick information, scrolling through like TikTok, Snapchat, Reels, everything is so fast-paced that we often don't take the time to actually sit down and read something fully. I notice even myself, like I used to read books all the time, and now I find that, I don't know if it's just what social media addiction does to us, but I find it's harder for me to focus on reading one thing fully through. I always find that I want to just kind of read something quickly and be like, oh, what's a quote that I can take from this, or what can I quickly gain from this and this and this and this, but to really sit down and read one thing fully all the way through. So that was a good practice for me. And this isn't really that long even, but it was still good to really take time and slowly read it. So highly encourage everyone to take some time and read the letter to artists. If you're a person of faith especially, it's going to speak to you. Obviously it was written by a pope, so it's a Catholic perspective, but this can apply to any person of faith and really any artist, even if you're not a believer, to just read it and be inspired. So I hope everyone takes the time to read this at some point and let me know your thoughts. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos every time I post, and I will see you in my next video.